Hey guys, welcome back. It's time to take another look at Veriswap. Yes, I had some messages. Yes, I had some follow-up. Yes, I had some people selling me some stuff about Veriswap because I've never used Veriswap. But last week we made a video about a sketchy transaction that took place, and it looks like that particular trader, I say trader because it's a platform for trading cards, not for selling cards, but I think you can also use cash. I get it. I see that there is appeal to the platform itself, but I don't think there's all that much appeal to the way that it's functioning at the moment. The thing is, if this is a safe way, if it's like a middleman service, I get it. It totally makes sense. It's like a platform where you can trade stuff, you can show what you have, you can accept trades, you can deny trades, you can do all the trades. Trading is awesome. But I think for this platform to make sense, it needs to be less of an attractive feature, an attractive platform for scammers. Because the way it stands right now, my apologies, Veriswap, but you need to be authenticating this stuff. You need to make sure that the stuff is as described. Otherwise, you might as well not exist. Because if somebody can just send something different than what is advertised, if they can advertise it as something that it's not, if they can send a fake when they took a picture of a real one, if they can hide the fact that it's a fake one and you just don't catch it, it's not a free pass to collect fees. Is kind of what I'm saying here. There needs to be some sort of value added there. There needs to be protection, or otherwise you're just a really bad middleman. Is kind of what the platform is looking like to me. I think there are very, very clear areas where they can improve on what they're doing here. Maybe they need to increase the fees in order to protect traders on the platform, buyer, seller, trader, whatever you want to call them. But we'll get into that. So if you haven't watched last week's video, I suggest you do. I feel like that is resolved. But the thing is, it doesn't sound like they always resolve it for the person that gets scammed. If you get scammed, they can say, oopsie doopsie, too bad. Maybe if I make a video about it, maybe they fix it at that point in time. It shouldn't require that. The thing is, the platform, yes, there's probably tons of people that use it, that would like to use it. There's probably even more people that would use it if you're actually protected. It needs to be protected. You need to be safe. It needs to be easy. It needs to remove that entire aspect of potentially getting scammed, and it's going to be okay regardless. All right. So the anonymous thing is an issue with all platforms that are consigning things, all platforms that are dealing with people that can remain anonymous or just make as many accounts as they want. Maybe they can make an account, but they're banned from a bunch of other places. I think a lot of these businesses, a lot of the grading companies and all these other companies that are dealing with people need to work together. They need to crack down on the people that are scamming, because if they're scamming somewhere, as we've seen many times on the channel, if you're scamming somewhere, you're probably going to scam somewhere else. You get kicked from somewhere, oh, no big deal, I can just go scam somewhere else. So we'll see a little bit of that today, but we're going to go through the FAQ here real quick, the FAQ, if you will, and we're going to see what is allowed on Veriswap. Cards graded by PSA, BGS, SGC, CGC, CSG, TAG, or ISA. So again, if you can, it should be basically any cards. They say that you're allowed raw cards as well, but they need to verify them. The same way that like eBay verification works, it could be essentially the same service. But you have to have somebody that knows what they're looking at. They have to be able to identify that it's a raw card. They have to be able to, not a raw card. They need to be able to identify that it's an authentic card. If it's a raw card, it needs to be as described. The pictures probably need to be like just outstandingly good, or it's rejected. If they're saying it's mint and it's bent in half, yeah, it needs to be sent back to the person. They need to receive some sort of warning, like, hey, you're wasting our time. Maybe they still have to pay the fees, but they get the card sent back to them as a kind of a deterrent for trying to scam the system. And maybe those fees go towards a pool where you save the people that get scammed. Because inevitably, if you're doing something like this, it's going to slip by you. The fake Rayquaza, it's going to slip by sometimes. It shouldn't, on that dollar value, should be extra careful with those sorts of transactions. Maybe there's certain people that need to look at the more expensive stuff. The less expensive stuff, maybe you have your grunts, your newbies that you hire, your newbies that have this stuff coming through. So yeah, I'm not hating on the platform. I just think the platform, the way that it exists, it sucks, and it's a potential way to get scammed. You can get scammed, yes, just straight up telling somebody that you're going to send them something and they don't send you anything in return, or they send you something fake. In this case, they send you something fake. So they probably do have to send you something, but it doesn't seem like it necessarily has to be what they advertised. It doesn't seem like it necessarily has to be a legitimate card, which that's scary, because right in the name, I've had several people like, why the hell do they call it Veriswap if they don't verify? Well, they verify sometimes, I guess, but they also have the wording here in their FAQ, in their terms of service, that they're not responsible for it. So it's kind of a toss-up whether you get boned or you don't get boned. It's just if they're feeling it that day, maybe if there's enough attention on it, if you make some posts, but you shouldn't have to do that. The service should only exist if they're verifying this stuff. Otherwise, it's you're kind of setting yourself up here. You have anonymous people who can make an account on here that were potentially scamming elsewhere, who can take advantage of the fact that Veriswap is not going to make sure everything is authentic. Now, we have, are raw cards allowed on Veriswap? Yes, however, as we are not a grading company, Veriswap does not verify the authenticity of raw cards received in a trade. If you want to absolve yourself from this, don't accept them. But even then, you don't need to be a grading company. You need to at least be somewhat of an expert to know if something is altered, if something is not as described, if something is just a straight up counterfeit. Otherwise, you probably just want to set up a different business and do something else. Because what is your purpose? To make sure that somebody sends something in return, but it doesn't matter if it's real. So this needs to be there. Yes. Is it? Guys, if you're trading, if you're buying, if you're doing any of this stuff and it's a large dollar value, you need to be an expert in it beforehand. No, you don't need to spend 20 years investigating and doing sci-fi crazy experiments to see if cards are real. But you need to have enough market experience. You need to be in whatever hobby you're dealing in for long enough that you can clearly identify. Most counterfeits are very easily identifiable. We get them all the time. If you're never sure, if you're not sure, if you're a noob and you see some pictures of something, come on into the Discord, give it a post, put it in the general chat and say, is this real? 99.9% of the time, you can tell from a mile away that it's a counterfeit card. Now, if I was looking at sports cards, if I was looking at something that wasn't Pokemon, okay, yes, it's going to be more difficult. Because if you're not an expert in that area, if you haven't, not even an expert, just if you haven't spent enough time around it, maybe you don't identify those things right away. You need to take pictures or look at pictures of real, authentic cards, compare them side by side to what you're looking at, and almost always you're going to see that there's a clear difference. Now, they're going to have these in person, so it should be even easier for them to give it a quick looperino, give it a quick little check the peek hole, if you will, for the old rosette pattern, the little nice little checkers in the peek hole. If it's not there, if you don't know what I'm talking about, join the Discord and I'll show you some pictures. I don't have one ready, but you got to know what you're doing. Be careful. And again, this is like one of those platforms, one of those things that if someone's less experienced, if they're like questioning authenticity of stuff, they're probably going to turn to a platform like this. And they're going to expect that their buns are covered. Now, let's get into here. So they charge fees. Maybe the fees need to be larger for this. As a middleman, they got to make money somehow. So it's understandable that there's fees there. But again, those fees need to cover the fact that they're checking it, not just that they're sending a package. Otherwise, like there's so little value there. What happens if you get scammed? So like even their FAQ is kind of back and forth. It doesn't. So they're like, yeah, we got you. No, we don't got you. No, we're not responsible. Yeah, don't worry, we got you. It's all back and forth. What happens if you get scammed? All transactions are verified by Veriswap. What? No, they're not. And Veriswap will refund all transaction and shipping fees if a transaction does not pass verification. But so you verify the package. You verify that they're sending something, but you don't verify the card itself or the cards themselves. You got to pick one. You either don't do anything and people shouldn't use the platform, or you verify them. You got to verify the cards themselves. Yes, even the most basic of stuff that should be happening is you should go to the PSA database. You should type in the number of the card that arrives. You should be able to identify a fake case. If you can't identify a fake case, you should not even be handling the cards in the middle. It's pretty simple. Especially on the newer stuff where there's like actual images. If you can't like match those up to what the real thing is, if you're not going to take the 30 seconds to do that, my apologies, but I don't. People should not be sending $10,000 cards through this, expecting to get something real. Does Veriswap authenticate PSA, BGS, SGC, CGC, CSG, TAG, and ISA slabs? And they say Veriswap does not authenticate slabs. Veriswap is only responsible for verifying the contents of each trader's package. The contents are the card. So I don't give a shit if you wanna type the number in or not. You need to look at the card and know that it's a real card. You get like $10,000 on the line here. This is free tendies. This is like free tendy. The scammers are just partying. They have those the party favor things, the little things that they blow and it like uncurls and makes a little noise. That's a scammer right now. No, not everyone that's on the platform has bad intentions, but there's a clear avenue there. The scammers are going to go to the place with least resistance, and if it's easy for them to type in, what do they have to provide? Like a phone number? They just have to punch a phone number in to make an account. They can name themselves GBaller69 Scammerini. Voila. Probably even with like a burner phone or whatever. So yes, the contents of the package need to be authenticated. The card itself needs to be authenticated. If you don't want the responsibility of the card itself being authentic, you need to at least be able to authenticate the case that's in here. You need to know what a real PSA case is. And then if it's not an authentic card inside the case, then you can pass that blame on to PSA and you can say, hey, go get the PSA authenticity guarantee. Same with, they probably need to be accepting more information. I don't know if you can ship to like PO boxes and stuff like that. Again, there's a lot of slimy stuff that can go on here. Does Veriswap authenticate raw cards? And no, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, everyone that's trading you is scamming you. No, that's not the case, but it's very possible. Not everyone on the platform, not the vast majority of the people on this platform, not even the vast majority of the people on Whatnot are out to scam you. But there are some that will, and if there's an avenue to do that, because Veriswap doesn't want to authenticate anything, they're going to be here. You're going to see more stories of this. I've already heard of a few stories on top of that. We're going to take a look at those today. I just wanted to get through the FAQ here real quick. And no, people are not going to read this. I don't even want to read this right now. Veriswap authenticate raw cards. Veriswap does not authenticate raw cards. When trading raw cards, users agree to not have expectations on the condition of the card. Veriswap is only responsible for verifying the contents of each trader's package. So that kind of goes against what they said up above here. Where was it? It's up here somewhere. Raw cards. Yes, we're not great. There's something here where it has to be like described accurately. Why? You don't have to authenticate it. You can make sure that it's as described and it's as shown in the images. You need to have better images than the ones we're going to take a look at. Again, if you're not authenticating anything, if you're not matching anything up, at least at the bare minimum of like looking at the cert number and verifying that the card is the actual card and it's not a counterfeit, isn't a fake case, please. All right, now we have the post on Twitter here of the video, and we had Auburn35 from the Blowout forums who says, appears that the PSA card cert is still active. Not the same scenario, but here's another recent scam that allegedly occurred on Veriswap. So that's where, again, I've criticized PSA, where they should show what the real card looks like. They should show the fake card next to it. When you look up the cert number, voila, people learn. People know what they're looking at. People know if it's the real thing or not the real thing. Now, we have a Gunboat82 who says the plan was to give the card away. Veriswap refunded the purchase. So we have a police report that was filed Thanks for your message and the police report. Unfortunately, if we reverse the $534.19 Veriswap, would be taking the hit on this card. You need to. Again, that's the business model that I see making sense. That's something that, like, I don't know if I would necessarily use it, but if I was going to use something for some reason, that's my expectation of what the platform would be good for. To each their own. You guys let me know down below if you care about the authenticity or not. I think that's the most important part, and standing behind this. And yes, sometimes you're going to have to bite the bullet. If PSA, with their grade guarantee, they grade a fake card, counterfeit card, guess what? They have to pay back either the grading fee, if it's the person that still owns it, that graded it, or even further than that, if somebody purchased it from that person, whatever the last purchase price was, they gotta refund that. So yes, if you're letting this stuff slip by, you shouldn't. But if you do, because it's gonna happen, the bigger you get, the more cards that are coming through there, the more likely it is to happen. Stuff's gonna get damaged. Bad things can happen. But you need to pool money so that you can fix those scenarios. Otherwise, the platform doesn't make sense. Per our terms and conditions, transactions on Veriswap are final and cannot be reversed. Okay, so again, you got the FAQ. We got apparently transactions can't be reversed even if bad things are happening. Now we have this little scenario here. We're not going to go into the detail here, but we have essentially if you guys want to pause it and read it, you can. We have a seller who sold a card for $650. They claim that it got lost. They're going to blame USPS for not scanning it in and losing it, for stealing it, or whatever they're doing. And then we have the buyer files a police report. All of a sudden, whoop-de-doo, swoop-de-ba-doop-de, we have the seller who lost the card to USPS, all of a sudden listing it up for trade. So we have what looks like a clear instance of we got somebody that took $650, didn't ship a card, and now they're trading it on there. So this is one of those things where, guys, transparency is huge. The fact that, like, you can't have anonymous people and a lack of verification, I guess, on the items themselves, on things like this. But yeah, another instance where this is one of those extra things. No, you might not get paid for it, but you have a scammer on your platform. You need to take that very seriously. You need to assist with law enforcement. You need to assist with, if it even gets to the point that it's the dollar values that we've seen many times get reached in sports cards, in trading cards. If the FBI is like, hey, we need information on this. If law enforcement, hey, we need information on this. If someone got scammed by this individual and they need information on it, you got to take that very seriously, because if you don't, and the person's still going to use your platform, they're going to scam somebody else. Then you're going to be on the line for that. So again, this is all constructive criticism here. I think the platform can exist. I just don't think it makes sense at this current time. So here is a nice little example here that we have from the Boz Bros, who says, here's my Veriswap story. Looks like on the Veriswap app, you're allowed to post high-end cards, call them a near mint, and not disclose major damage. So that's the thing. If you're going to call something mint, near mint, whatever, yes, they have to verify the condition to some extent. I mean, you got to take it out. You got to take a look at it. Like, if it's bent in half and they're listing it as a mint card, again, with the raw cards, they should have to have very clear pictures. It should, like, go to approval and just like, okay, you can see the damage on the card. Sweet. Not the case. Now, you can't just have that. You're going to have so many disputes. Not only are you going to have disputes because people don't agree on what a condition is, but also the fact that you're just going to have people hiding damage, which just looks like what happened in this case. I did a trade for this raw Celebi, got it in the mail today, and it has a deep scratch down the middle of it that was not shown in pictures or disclosed of the card description. The card was cracked down from a PSA 10 slab since the slab was damaged, but was clearly stated the card is still near mint with no damage. I emailed Veriswap for any steps I can take to get this resolved, and attached is their response. We'll take a look at that. They are not responsible for raw card conditions and sent $100 in trade credit. Nothing to help resolve it with the original owner. Just to brush off and move on. I know as a trader, you agree to the condition of raw cards stated in the post, but what about someone flat out lied about the condition of it? That is grounds for a refund on any platform. So yeah, that's the thing too. You're going to end up having to chase scammers. You're going to have to take action against the scammers, whether that's legal action against the scammers or through police reports or FBI investigations, depending on the dollar value once again. And yes, I know I'm going to get that one angry little wiener baby down in the comments. So look, what, the FBI doesn't get involved with cards. Yes, they do. When the dollar value gets high enough, it doesn't matter what the medium is, what you're buying or selling, they will all of a sudden become interested. It's wild how that's a real thing. They say I'm posting this for public awareness, and if anyone else had a similar situation and what the resolution was, because this is not right, and I have no clear resolution. So this is one of those things where it should have been taken out. You should take it out of the package. Otherwise, just don't have raw cards. If you don't want to deal with raw cards, if you don't want to take a look at them, this is where the pictures are important. It should have pictures of it. The person that is trading the card that is raw should have the most beautiful pictures of this individual card, especially if it's expensive. They should bring it out in the sunlight, wherever they got to bring it, get some nice pictures, show any of the damage that is on the card itself. It gets approved by some admin on the Veriswap, and then send it in. When they receive it, it better match. It better be the same card. If it has a hollow pattern, that hollow pattern better match. This is the whole process. I'm going to write it out for you. You got to check for any of the damage. If there's damage that's there that was not there, it was not shown in the photos, maybe it goes to review by the other person on the trading end of things, saying, "Hey, do you want this?" Or maybe you offer that as a service, an extra bonus service that people can. Well, that wouldn't really work. You have to agree to the trade. You need storage or something to trade. So you could send it in. They take the photos. They have the camera. They have the lighting all set up so you can see all of the damage on the cards themselves. Here it is. Here's what it looks like. Do you still want to trade? Yes. Or you could have it so that the person that's sending the raw card in pays the fees, but then you can have people on the other end that are just like wishy-washy, whatever. I'm not sure how that works. I'm not sure exactly what extent they want to get into that, but bare minimum, show all the damage on the card to the best of your ability, and voila. If it arrives and it's more damaged, it's a different card or anything like that. That's the thing that was the problem with the eBay guarantee, was the fact that sometimes they weren't checking to make sure it was the same card. On the raw stuff, you got to do that. It's bare minimum. You gotta check. Yes, there's extra risk. You got to take the card out. You got to check it. So there's risk of whoever's doing that damaging the card itself. But here's the listing: $2,700. Yeah, when something's $2,700, you need to take this out and you need to check it. Not only that, if it's in a magnetic case like this, you should not ship in a case like this. I don't know if it was shipped in that or not. Doesn't show what it was shipped in, but you shouldn't be shipping in one of these. Yes, they're beautiful cases. Yes, they're a great alternative. If you do not want to grade your cards, you can use a nice magnetic case. But no, don't ship in this, because it can open up. It can pinch. You can pinch in between on the bottom or the top if it opens up a little bit. Now, if you tape it or you put a sticker or whatever, maybe it wouldn't do that, but again, I would just avoid it. Use a semi-rigid or a top loader if you want to ship things. Painter's tape on the top so it doesn't come out. Here, card condition, near mint, mint 8. So, sketchy as it is with the way that this is listed, again, you're probably not going to see any of the damage on it. Arrived from Japan slab, but it arrived cracked. Didn't trust PSA to reholder and had to cut card out of the slab to minimize damage. So, that's kind of a lie right off the bat here. Didn't trust PSA to reholder to minimize damage. So we're minimizing damage. Why you don't trust PSA to do that? Or you just want to, like, you can't advertise it as a 10. Say that it's still a 10. You don't say like where the damage was. You got to be transparent with the damage itself. This seems like a sly move trying to pass this off as something that's not. Now, if you're saying it's an 8 here, you should have pictures of it. You should have pictures of what the damage was when it came out of the case. Otherwise, this just shouldn't be allowed on the platform. Like, if they're not going to check it when it's being traded, if you're taking pictures of it still in the case, if you're not showing the damage on it. So here we go. We got the message sent in by the bros saying, hey, this is what happened. And we got the response here saying, hi, Nick, we are sorry that the card you received was not up to your expectations. Well, Veriswap does not guarantee the condition of raw cards, as we are not a grading company. We have added $100 in trade credit to your account to make things right. So that's the thing. Dollar value is $100. $2,700 card. I don't know what the end trade value was or anything like that, but if it was anywhere close to this, like $100 credit is kind of a slap in the face. Especially when it's, if this is supposed to be an 8, the difference in value on this, I could have looked it up. You can look it up if you guys want to let me know what the difference is on a 6, a 5, or a 6 compared to an 8. The approximate 8 that it's being advertised as, or a 10. It's going to be a giant gap there for sure. Now, still a beautiful card, still should be appreciated, but not nearly as valuable because it's got a pretty big dent through the middle of it. Now, is this a resolution? Is this all could have been avoided? It all could have been avoided by the person that is accepting the trades, that has to verify the contents of the package, taking 3 extra seconds to take a look to see if there's any undisclosed damage, or that you got to look through the pictures. How many pictures were there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got to look through the 6 pictures. You got to check to see if there's any noticeable damage that wasn't shown in the pictures. Maybe at that point in time, you have to send it to the other party and say, hey, do you approve this? They can click yes or no. Then they're on the hook. If you show them the extra damage that wasn't shown and they still want the card and they're okay with it, voila. Yes, it's extra work, but it's value added for the customer. That is something that customers are going to appreciate. They want to do this safely. If you're trying to make something that is a platform for them to trade safely, it needs to be safe. And it's not safe right now. Most transactions will be fine. Especially if you have somebody that's traded a whole bunch of things, if they have a good record of doing so, if it's all graded cards, if you can go look up those cert numbers yourself. You should be looking at the numbers yourself if you're trading for graded cards, because if you can find images of those, if you can't find them on the database from the grading company themselves, which you should look up anyway to see if it's stolen, because Veriswap, I don't know if they do that or not. You can do it yourself. You can, before you trade for something, or before you're buying anything like that. If you're buying something that's $2,700, even if you have a lot of money, please go type in the cert number. I mean, this one you can't because I don't know if they show the label in the other photos or not, but go look up the cert number. Make sure it's not stolen. Make sure it's not marked stolen. Make sure that, like, you can, if the scans are there, go look at the scans to see if there's any damage on them that maybe they're not showing. Maybe they took their own photos instead of using the scans. Maybe the scans, depending on where you're looking at them, on eBay it gets pretty compressed and garbagey. But they have so many listings that it probably has to some extent. If you can find them elsewhere. If there's no photos on the PSA cert verification or wherever you're looking, CGC, whatever, then you can go to Google, you type in the cert number, and usually, not always, but usually you can find whatever card it is, especially if it's an expensive one. Somebody owned it before. They probably had pictures. Put them somewhere, whether it was sold, whatever it was. That's all I got for you. Sometimes on the PSA website as well, if they don't have actual scans from PSA, they'll have like a transaction history, that kind of thing down below, where you can go look at those eBay listings. Hopefully the photos are good enough that you can tell what's going on, that you can tell what it is, what it looks like. But that's it. That's all. That's my rant for the day. Probably too long of a rant, but you're welcome, Veriswap, for the I guess the constructive criticism. I do hope that they swing it around, that they make it into a more useful platform for the people that are interested in this type of thing. Personally, I'd rather keep trades to like people I know and trust. Otherwise, I think just buying and selling is probably the way to go. Sell something. And yes, I know this is like a reduced fees kind of incentive here. Maybe reduced reporting on like taxes and stuff like that if you trade rather than buying and selling. But You probably still have to report that in most places. I'm not sure how that works, but don't take my advice. Ask your accountant about that. That's all I got. Join the Discord. See you guys next time. Look out for each other out there. Be careful, regardless of the platform you use. There's counterfeit stuff on eBay. There is counterfeit stuff that can go through Veriswap. There's counterfeit stuff that you can buy from SketchDog69 on Instagram. Be careful. Where there's money, there are scammers. See you next time. Bye. This video is brought to you by the Rattle Pokemon Linktree. You can get all kinds of sick, nasty discounts. You can click on some affiliate links before you shop for the stuff you're going to shop for already from reputable places. Thanks for using code RATTLE5 on trollandtoad.com. Thanks for going to Card Market and buying from there. If you're from Europe or if you have a friend from Europe, great spot to shop. Dragon Shield, Rattle 5, and BCW Rattle 10 for 10% off.